Gamers, you're winning. You defeated the colossus giants of DEI agendas and of course the sweet baby inks that consulted the video gaming industry into oblivion. And for the just rewards of winning that battle against those agendas, we're seeing an equal and more effective backlash that is trying to get all those ideals that we defeated back into the forefront of the gaming audience. And this is what we're seeing right now with the whole host of censorship acts that are occurring across the country. That's what we're seeing with new organizations sprouting out of the nothingness and creating powerful influences in the gaming world. That's what we see with the collective shouts that have censored gaming through payment processors like Visa and MasterCard. And that's what we're seeing with the UK's Online Safety Act. They're gunning for us because gamers have won that first battle. They defeated the giants of Gamergate 2.0. And now we have to go against the bigger giants of government censorship and international global power. And that is way bigger than Sweet Baby Inc. right now. And I think that's what gamers are finally realizing, that we're in the greater war right now. We just battle against these smaller entities like Sweet Baby Inc. and the DEI agenda. We're going against something bigger now. And it looks like it's going to be a harder fought battle. But of course, there may be hope out there. We're seeing people like Elon Musk do some things and they're being attacked just like gamers are. And there may be a solution to this battle for gaming. But let's go back to those days of gamers suffering under the first regime of Gamergate 1, where we got all the titles that we absolutely hate because gamers were lost. We had Sweet Baby Inc. in development. We had these DEI standards that completely changed the gaming industry, that put out so much product that was unworthy of actually being games, that gamers revolted and actually started doing their own campaigns of pushing out these elements in gaming. And that's what sprouted out with Gamergate 2.0, where we had gamers actively campaigning not to actually purchase these games. And we saw this happen with games like Concord that came out to be massive failures. We saw this with Kill the Justice League, Dustborn, Star Wars Outlaws. These games effectively taking down gigantic companies. And I think that is the thing that we saw with Gamergate 2.0. We saw Sweet Baby Inc. fall over itself and collapse because they supported much of the games that were absolutely failures in the gaming industry. And I think this is what we effectively saw with this new version of Gamergate. Gamers boycotted hard. Over 355,000 people joined a movement to identify Sweet Baby Inc. games. Gamers went out there and just listed the games that were influenced by Sweet Baby Inc. And we just had a whole idea of any type of game that comes out with similarly culturally focused identities that they want to push out there. Gamers were aware of it. And that's why we saw these entities essentially lose their power within the industry, because gamers pointed out that these are not the games that we want. And that is the thing that resulted in the gigantic failure of multiple studios, and it led to a pivoting for a lot of these studios, where it may not have been Western studios, but Eastern studios recognized the problem with Western gaming and promptly came up with a solution. We saw so much great games come out of the East that took advantage of this, and it just showed the way for Western games to actually do something similar. And I think that is what we saw with Stellar Blade. That's what we saw with so much Chinese games. That's what we saw with The First Descendant. That's what we saw with Wu-Chang Fallen Feathers. We see so much titles trying to please the gamers that are out there. And I think that success from that is what we're seeing right now with this backlash and uprising of new activist organizations, because gamers and their influence were shown outright as more powerful than anything that we could see from these gigantic corporations. And now we have the new wave of censorship taking hold into the gaming industry. In comes in Collective Shout. Collective Shout is an Australian feminist anti-adult content group. They campaigns against the objectification of women in media, including games. They pressured MasterCard, Visa to stop processing payments when it comes to games that are related to objectifying women. We saw this happen and spread throughout all the distributors of gaming. We saw this catch up with DL site, a smaller indie site. Then we saw this go to Steam and itch.io, where they removed over 17,000 games to be in line with their personal ideology. And this just isn't NSFW stuff or adult content. They're going after indie devs. They're going after LGBTQ creators. They're going even after mainstream games. We saw them take out a popular indie game, Mouthwashing, from all these distributors. And this is not even a very graphic game. It's just showing that this is not about adult content. It's about the censorship of all gaming. And meanwhile, after this, you have the UK Online Safety Act of 2023 that just solidified itself and is enforceable in July 25th, 2025. And it mandates platforms like Xbox, Discord, and Steam to verify ages with facial scans and IDs to protect kids from harmful content. Critics call this a censorship nightmare, basically. It could suppress political speech, it could suppress modifications in gaming, and it could just suppress all speech. And that is what gamers are trying to understand about this new situation around them, where we're getting even more aggressive censorship. And it's coming down to this because gamers have won. And it doesn't mean just gamers playing games won. I'm talking about the culture of gaming, the influence of gaming, because it doesn't really have to be directly attached to gaming, but the things that you can do in a gaming environment, the speech that you're able to have, the interactions with different people. It is a fertile ground to actually grab onto new ideas and to hear different voices. And because this is unregulated and an uncontrolled environment, we're seeing these free speech laws come out and try to tame down and completely control the speech there. And that's why I mentioned some of the political speeches, because this is a guided act at grabbing and controlling any political speech that you see in these chat rooms and forums. I think this is a reaction to what a lot of these government censorship programs are realizing, that a lot of the youth, a lot of the people that are connected to gaming are just not really engaging with their narrative of the world. That's why Gamergate 2.0 winning and defeating the Sweet Baby Inks is significant, because gamers showed that we can actually just not interact with your content, and we can actually build a community that is so powerful that will go against any of the content that you're putting out there, where we can flat out reject anything that you put out there. And if we can do that, that means anything they produce is meaningless. So the next step has to be a blanket censorship of the content that they don't want to see out there. And this extends out to the political content, because the political content that they see out there that they don't want to see out there is winning over too. And I think that is in correlation to what we see with gaming, where the truth and the desires of the customer base is winning over. The same thing is happening in politics. And I think politics and gaming are interactive in this sort of way, where you can see where politics is going by looking at the gaming community. We saw this with campaigns in 2016 for the American president. We see this currently for the 2024 campaigns of multiple government entities across the world, where gaming is kind of a bullwether, where you can look at a streamer and you already can see where the political sentiment is going. And I think that is the thing that we're seeing as a dangerous influence that the governments across the world finally recognize as a threat. And it goes down to these 5 elements that are at the core of them doing this to gamers, because gamers aren't just button smashers. We're a force in society and politics. Here are 5 substantiated reasons Collective Shout in the UK are zeroing in on gaming. Number 1, massive voting power. Gamers are a huge demographic. They're over 3 billion worldwide, with 80% planning to vote in elections. We sway politics. Censors fear our block-resisting mandates like the UK Privacy Invasion Acts. Number 2, cultural narrative shapers. Gamers change attitudes long-term. Think how they normalize ideas on equality and freedom. Collective Shout hates objectifying content. They target gamers to rewrite culture without pushback. And that's the main thing that I'm seeing with these mom type of organizations, where they're trying to control gaming, where they see it as the cultural influencer, the chief cultural influencer. Number 3, we can go to resistance to censorship. Gamers are the loudest when it comes to resisting censorship, and they can drive boycotts. And I think that is one of the main reasons they're doing this. And of course, number 4, I'm going to go with economic influence via boycotts. It ties into number 3, but we can actually put pressure on these organizations. And that's what we saw with Gamergate 2.0. We were putting pressure on these organizations. We're changing games overseas, where Eastern games in China and Korea are trying to satisfy gamers in the West that are just not getting the content that they want. And I think that power is recognized, that economic power of gamers. And we can go back down to political mobilization. We saw in 2016 with the gamers actually influencing the election in sort of way. And we had this recognition from people like Steve Bannon saying they use the ideas from gaming to actually push influence in the election. And I think these are the reasons that we're seeing right now that are making gaming and gamers a prime target to these massive organizations for censorship. And of course, it comes down to how can we get out of this situation. I think for gamers, we're all fighting back. We're doing the boycotts. We're trying to fight back MasterCard with similar tactics to Collective Shout. But I think more than anything, we need to recognize who's the biggest enemy of Collective Shout. And it seems like it's Elon Musk. They put out a whole post saying we need to stop Elon Musk. He's our #1 threat. And I think one of the biggest organizations that is against gamers is targeting Elon Musk and all of his platforms and trying to restrict him from doing anything. I think we can quickly realize that probably what he can offer is a big subversion to their control system. And I think what Elon Musk plans to offer is probably an X-payment system, a payment processor that may be independent of the payment processing system that we've seen from Visa and MasterCard. And that in and of itself may be the thing that they're scared of the most, because we see itch.io looking for different payment processors, and they may find it. In this breaking up of who you go to for payment processing might be the key thing to actually save gaming from this new wave of censorship. But this is what winning is like, boys. This is how you win in gaming. You start by being attacked by every single big organization because you are a threat now. And I think that's what we're seeing right now with all these censorship laws. Gamers have won, and they are now in the big leagues where everyone wants to control them because they have just become way too powerful. But that's just my 2 cents on this situation. Maybe you disagree with me. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Do you think gamers are a threat to society? That seems to be the case, and that's why the censorship gang is coming out to get us. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Like, comment, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.